Welcome to the current. Most people experience construction and engineering at the point things are actually built. But long before that, there's a layer of work that quietly determines how everything actually unfolds. Environmental constraints, planning considerations, early stage decisions that shape what's realistic and what isn't. And that's work that sits right in the intersection of technical understanding, regulation, and then real world delivery. It's a complex, often overlooked, but when it's done well, you rarely hear about it. But when it's not, everything downstream does feel it. And that's exactly where today's conversation sits and takes us. We're going to look at the reality of early age engineering and how decisions actually get made and how the changes depend on the environment you're operating in. Because as we said, there's a difference between large corporate structures and smaller, more agile teams that are closer to the decisions they're actually making. Today, I'm joined by someone who's worked across both. Agnieszka, Principal Geo-Environmental Engineer at TACP, a consultancy working across multidisciplinary projects, supporting planning, environmental, and ecological elements before anything actually begins. Agnieszka, welcome to The Current. How are you?
Hello. Hi, I'm fine, thank you.
It's a real pleasure to have you on. We're looking forward to unpack your journey and get some insights and a bit of the background. But before we do this, let's just get a little bit of grounding. For someone who may not be familiar, what does your role and the role of the company at TACP involve?
Okay. So as you mentioned, I'm a Geo-Environmental Engineer. I've joined GCP a couple of years ago with the role of primarily managing projects and helping with the delivery. So we are environmental consultancy. Our core deliverables, as you said, services are environmental management, environmental planning, ecology, landscape architecture. So we work collaboratively within the company, also with many other small, medium-sized companies with different specialities. Whatever the project requires, we've got a wide network of companies we can reach out and ask them to join our team.
Amazing. Thank you very much for that overview. I really appreciate that as well. Now, I know from our previous conversation that you've had some experience in larger engineering organizations. But obviously now you're in a slightly smaller, maybe more agile business. So just thinking back to that large scale environment, what was that like? And maybe what led you to the move, if you don't mind?
So prior to TCP, I was for 7 years working for Arab. So it's a civil engineering company, multidisciplinary, covering any aspect of engineering project from conception to construction, apart from actually going to site and construct it. So I was part of the ground engineering team and delivering geo-environmental plant contamination advice on projects. So the difference, you still work on projects, but you are part of the structure. You are corporate, it's part of a corporate business, and you've got a very long chain of command above you. That's the definitely difference. What made me change? Just needing a change. I think now I got to the point that I couldn't go any further, and I really wanted to do something different. And I've always been passionate about environmental protection and making sure we are not impacting our surroundings with our activities. I thought, environmental consultancy is what I want to do now.
I like it. I guess you could say almost following a passion, would you say?
It is, yeah. So from the very start, I was passionate about environmental protection, and it's kind of been in line with that, kind of doing different aspects and working the regulators as well. I was working in the council at the beginning and through private sector, large corporate environmental engineering consultancy to a small now environmental focused place. So I'm really happy with my move.
Oh, that's good. We're really happy for you. So thinking back to this big, large corporate structure, obviously we know they do structure themselves differently. Is there anything in particular that you learned from that environment? Maybe something that you now continue to apply in your role as you've moved on?
I think the key lesson learned from being in a big company is you can't work in a silos. You have to work with others. The team that's on the project needs to be multidisciplinary, it needs to be integrated. You can't make decisions in isolation. You need to have a holistic approach, and being part of that big consultancy, it's there. Although, to be honest, if Arab was really good in terms of that integration, maybe other consultancies are not that great, but that's the main lesson I learned from the big, and that's what I'm trying to apply now.
Amazing. Thank you. So I guess when you compare the two, what would you say are the real differences comparing maybe an SME to a large corporate that actually impact the day to day? What would you say?
The main difference is the agility to approach a problem project. You can obviously in a big corporation, you've got the wide range of disciplines, but you don't necessarily have the specialists that might be the best for the project. Being in a small consultancy, which is part of the wide ecosystem of other SMEs, you can reach out to anyone knowing I need this specialist for this problem and collaborate together. So that agility, that way of forming your team and providing the client with the best outcome, that's definitely the difference I can see.
Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you can, when you're a bigger company, you have to be quite generalist because you take on lots of different projects. But I guess
That's
maybe
right.
being SMEs, you can specialize, and we obviously know specialists are better than generalists. You mentioned agility. Why would you say agility is important in the industry?
As you can see, everything is changing very fast in the wider world. You've got to react to the changes. You need to react to any challenges that are there, and small company can do it really quick. You've got the decision making, the people who are in charge, they are sitting next to you, and you can just make decisions really quickly and react to any changes and plan for them instantly. Obviously, instantly in the kind of the business timescales world, but it's not something that the board makes a decision and then it trickles down through organization over months and years sometimes. Here you can make a decision, make a change, and being part of the small company, you can actually influence how it is run as well.
Wow. Yeah, yeah. I think that makes sense. It doesn't have to go through too many layers to actually reach a decision. And I guess, yeah, speed is the way. Yeah. Quick question though. Is there anything in particular you think larger organizations still have the advantage? How do you think they still have the advantage?
Well, the clients like to have one-stop shop, especially big organizations. They like to know, especially companies that have worldwide reputation. I mean, when you're in the industry, you know who people like are asking. So whoever is there, you know the name, and you think you can pass on your project, and you can just rely on that being delivered without any problems. So that's the advantage. I guess you've got greater resilience maybe in the workforce. You've got thousands of people who are employed. If one goes off sick, you can find another person within the organization that can deliver, which obviously small organization may struggle with. Although luckily with our size, we are medium organization, we've got that resilience already there, and we keep growing as well. So we're on the track.
Awesome. Yes, that's good perspective. I like that. Now, on the flip side, where would you say that small to medium businesses actually outperform some of these large corporate organizations?
I think it's that local understanding, local knowledge of the project. Often, we our projects are based Wales, South Wales, North Wales, and in the vicinity. And we've got people who often live in the vicinity of the project, and we know the local environment, local conditions, the councils, what the regulators want, and you work very closely with all the stakeholders. But I think that local knowledge and being able to tap into that network of local specialists is quite an advantage that big consultancy or big organization would struggle with.
Sounds like it's more of a close knit personal environment where you can rely more on the people you know instead of the big numbers. Yeah, see how that'd be positive. Let's think now about more about the work, about ecology, maybe the early stage impact. Because obviously a lot of people they only see projects once they're underway, maybe the diggers are in or whatever it is. But obviously we know your work sits right at the beginning. So from your perspective, what do a lot of people misunderstand about ecology and maybe early stage engineering?
So for many years, and when I joined in, oh sorry, my cat, good. when I when I started my engineering career, ecology was the maybe not a dirty word, but it was like, oh my god, ice rolling and consider a showstopper for the project. Surely they will find some butterflies that will stop the development. Over the years, you can see this shift in the thinking and understanding. People are now considering ecology and biodiversity as a key consideration of the project. If you think you can think about it as any risk management on any project, you need to understand what your constraints are, what are your legal obligations are, what information you need, Hence, you need to do all the surveys and understand what actually could impact your project. And then identify your mitigation. What do you need to do on the project to make it happen? And being compliant with all the regulations and legislation.
Yeah, that makes sense. There's a lot that goes on before, well, I guess the work even starts. And I think you're right. There's a bit of a stigma about ecology because I like that. People think, oh, butterflies are going to stop the work. So a
Yeah.
quick question. How much of the final outcome, the product, whether that's, infrastructure or a building itself, is effectively shaped by this early stage of the ecological environment?
It's hugely, because the best way of mitigation, obviously, the best way to progress with project is to avoid any damage. So once you know what you've got on site, you can design your infrastructure, design your building, taking those things into consideration. If there are, let's say, mature trees on site, don't cut them. Build your infrastructure, your roads around it, retain them. And so that would have a massive impact on how you see the project. Now with the latest changes in the legislation, requires lots of mitigation and lots of net gain. In a way, you need to make it better than what you found on site. So you have to consider that from the very beginning of your planning, of your design, to be able to incorporate all those elements into your design. So it's critical that you know what's there and what you need to do, achieve at the end of the project to be compliant with legislation and planning.
Yeah, that makes sense. Yeah, I think it's from my perspective, a rather important topic, especially because we know things ultimately are only going to get worse if we keep going the way we are. I'm just curious from your perspective, what do you say is the main driving factor, maybe underneath all of this, why we need to show so much concern about net gain, net positive, and the ecological environment? On the flip side, if we just go in with bulldozers and do what we want, where we want.
Well, there's been lots of evidence coming up lately, and I'm sure there's been laws in the past, that just nobody pay attention to it. Natural environment and biodiversity is critical to our survival, our well-being, our food production, our life. Without that, we wouldn't be able to have crops. We wouldn't have to be able to, without bees, you can't have fruit. Without any natural environment, your stress levels go up. So it's absolutely essential for us as humans to retain and protect the environment as much as we can.
So, from your experience, what's something about the industry that people wouldn't fully understand unless they've experienced it?
I think there's always a huge misconception about what engineering is. From what I've experienced, engineering is highly creative, highly rewarding, and sociable environment. It's a place where you can have ideas, implement them, make a difference, and make a difference in society. You can see your projects being built, being used and appreciated, and that's hugely rewarding.
Thank you very much for sharing that. Appreciate that. And I know, obviously, we talked in previous conversations about women in engineering and STEM. Obviously, it's such an important topic, and we're all for that. So, maybe thinking about the time and the differences, what would you say has improved over time when it comes to the availability and opportunities? And what would you say still needs to happen and still needs to evolve for a woman getting into engineering, or the opportunities?
I could see the change in when I was working for Arab in terms of the approach to equality and the efforts made to make sure that girls, especially graduates, had the same opportunities to join in engineering consultancy. So a lot has changed, and you could see the positives. You could see more female graduates joining in, or at least applying, and so that was a huge progress. I've seen the change in attitude. I think maybe it has not entirely got there yet, but women are considered to be equal engineers to men. I mean, that's a difference to what I experienced when I was first time. I think when I was working in the council, I went to site with my colleague and I was blanked out. My main colleague was only spoken to. I did not exist on site. They were the same. So from going from that to be part of multidisciplinary teams with a lot of, obviously it is still male dominated. There's no question about it. But I do not feel that being a woman, I'm less valued in the team. Obviously, some companies might not be there yet, but I think it's a huge consideration. And now I'm lucky because TACP is run by women mainly, and it's it's a great environment to be in.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you very much as well for sharing that past experience. And we're sorry that I had to go through that. But I want a quick question now. Maybe someone is sadly facing something similar, whether they're being discriminated, whatever that reason is for. What helped you handle that challenge and what stopped you from giving up and able to keep going and obviously progressing your career?
Yes, the glass ceilings will be there in the industry, especially for people, not even women, but men as well, I guess, who are struggling to balance parenthood and job and being have a feeling that you may not be as committed to your job as others who don't need to rush out at 5:30 on the dot to collect a child from nursery. I just kept going. I had no choice. That's what had to be done. Obviously, had conversations about it with my managers, and I was always reassured that has nothing to do with my career progression. And I did progress. So there's slower is you just need to keep going. And I think COVID made a big impact on how work-life balance is perceived now. I think long hours and overtime is a little bit thing of a past as well. I think you just need to keep going and challenge, react to anything that you feel is unacceptable behavior, which I think now is everybody is aware what is unacceptable behavior, and it is much easier to challenge it. And you'll be supported, hopefully, by your senior management.
Yeah, I like that. That's really practical advice. Thank you for sharing your experiences as well there. Now, Agnieszka, if you could give a 10 to 15-second pitch to maybe a young woman or person who's thinking about getting into engineering, what advice or a bit of a 10-second pitch would you give to them about the life?
Your career is not a straight line. You will be going in zigzags back and fro, back and front. It's not a given line of planning will not work. Be open to opportunities. Even look for them actively. When you start your career, get as much of broad experience as you can, and that will just give you a strong foundation for growth. And then you can start diving deep into something that you found on your journey that you're passionate about and you want to learn more. Don't be afraid of challenges. Take anything that comes your way if you feel comfortable, and the reward will be great.
I love it. Thank you very much for that. That's a great pitch. And I think people are going to be excited to hear about the opportunities. You mentioned obviously life being a zigzag of your career path. And we know now that from our conversations, obviously now you're in a bit of a, would you say, leadership phase where you actively support people and lead them. So as your role has evolved over time, how has your shift in responsibility maybe actually shown up day to day in certain areas where you thought, oh, I'd never have to take responsibility in this area? How's that?
I think it's the responsibility for making sure people are doing the best in the job. It's to giving them the opportunity to grow and be empowered to come out of the shell and be the best of themselves. That's where the leadership element is, and that's the daily thinking, not even conscious thinking. What can I do to help others to grow and take more ownership of things and be more confident in themselves?
Yeah, that's nice. I like that as well. Appreciate your insights as well. You did mention at the outset as well that obviously the company is beginning to grow. Obviously, we know that's quite good. Any place is a brilliant place to be in, especially when it's growing. But as businesses start to grow from your perspective, what would you say maybe tends to go wrong or goes to break first? What would you say is the areas to look out for other people that are thinking about growth? What would you recommend for them?
I mean, the key is to get your structure and your systems right. If getting to a certain point in the company growth, you need to have all the procedures, systems in place, applying for the getting the integrated management system in place where you can show to your client, provide this assurance that any project you will be delivering will be in terms of quality, meeting the highest standards, you are meeting all the health and safety and environmental requirements. And that gives that assurance to anyone who's working with you that you are a professional and you can deliver projects efficiently and you can be relied on. I think getting those systems in place is procedures is quite important as that without that you can't grow.
Hmm. Yeah, that makes sense. I guess you need to have a foundation to grow from and then be able to continue to scale at that level as well.
Otherwise everything turns out to chaos and you can't deliver. You don't know where your emails are saved, you don't have the systems. you don't know which version of drawings you issued. It's just then obviously that's not professional, and you can get yourself into trouble
Mm.
if you don't follow procedures and systems. Unfortunately, as everybody, nobody likes to be bound by any strict requirements. So it is important, unfortunately, to get those in place.
Enables you to grow. Yeah, I think that's the right perspective there as well. You mentioned as well a few bits of tools, and is there any other tools or software that you'd recommend, maybe not specifically, that you guys begin to use or that you'd recommend people actually start thinking about? Just wonder your perspective on that.
I mean, having a good system where you can track the time spent on projects, that's critical. Knowing how much time has been spent, who worked on a project, what can you invoice, basic financial management of the company is critical. Especially when you grow beyond 1, 2, 3 people as a company, you start losing control in a way of what people are doing and how much time you spend on projects, especially when you start working on multiple projects. You need to have that system in place. Otherwise, yeah, you lose control and then you start losing money because you are not able to track your progress and your spend.
Yeah, I think you're right. You got to be able to see what's going on day to day, where the money's going, and how to allocate time.
Exactly.
Yeah, knowledge comes power. Thank you very much for these practical tips again as well. Now, you did give some amazing advice in your 10-second pitch, but I think I want to dive a little bit deeper because I know there's some more insights you can give there. I'm thinking about people who are entering the industry now, whether that's from an early stage or whether they're just having a career change in their life because they're following a passion. What would you say matters early on? What's the really important things for people to keep in mind when they're just beginning in their career journey or their industry change? What would you say are the important early things?
I think those being open to those opportunities and getting experience across a wide range of topics. So, for example, if you are a young graduate engineer, if you've got an opportunity to work with structural engineering, geotechnical engineering, mechanical engineering, even if it's a short few months stint, and getting that experience, and that will provide amazing broad perspective on what elements of project and delivery of any engineering problem are. You'll be able to have a holistic overview, and then later on in your career, you would definitely use that, and that would create amazing foundation for being a good leader later on, because you will understand what all the engineering aspects, all the aspects are of the project that you need to consider in your delivery. And you know the struggles, you know the problems that all the disciplines may have, what information they need, surveys or what investigations they need to undertake, and you can program your project much better. And obviously, you will always work with those disciplines. But if you don't know what questions to ask, you might not ask them. So you need to have that broad understanding and even go beyond your kind of engineering specialty. Speak to ecologists, speak to landscape architects, speak to anyone who is working on your project. So you've got that understanding. What are they doing? What decisions they're making? What challenges they have? And that will kind of put you in a position that you can start seeing beyond your little task that you've got on the project. But you start understanding what the project is actually about and how to get it from start to end.
That's a brilliant bit of advice. Sounds like get more of a rounded picture, understand all of the moving parts so that you can work better in the future. And you're right, I think that's going to massively help someone in the future when they become leaders or people because they understand they have that empathy towards, oh, they have to make this decision. Amazing. Thank you very much. Now, I'd like to do a bit of a quick fire round. I just want you to answer as quick as you can. Don't worry, no pressure at all. The first thing that comes into your head when I ask you these questions. Is that okay?
Okay, go on.
Let's go for it. Good for the brain. One thing you wish you knew earlier.
The power of mentoring.
Best decision you made in your career.
Make a change and make that leap.
Biggest mistake that taught you the most.
I guess that's naive thinking that your success is at heart, everybody's heart. It's actually, unfortunately, not.
One habit that made a difference.
Cycling to work.
That's practical, yeah. A belief about engineering that others may disagree with.
I guess the creativity and the social aspect of engineering that probably not many people appreciate that there is actually. People are very sociable and eccentric. You have lots of people of different kind in engineering. It's not just men in overalls and repairing boilers.
Amazing. Thank you very much, Agnieszka. You can relax now and take a breath. That's that quick fire round. Good to keep the pace up. Now, as you know, when we come to a close, I like to ask my two signature questions. Now, the first question is I'd like for you to come in the back of my DeLorean. I want to take you all the way to 2027. Now, you're
Right.
looking back on 2026. Now, 2026 has been an amazing year, not just for you personally, but also for the company and also for the ecological impact that you and the company are having. Now, what would need to happen for you to feel that 2026 has been a really successful year?
I guess it's to see the company keep growing. We are going through lots of changes at the moment. So seeing that coming to fruition and seeing the company grow and being at the front of it and part of that growth, that's where the success would be for me.
We look forward to hearing all about the growth as well the next time we have you on. Now, on a rather philosophical note to end on, I know it's a bit of a spanner, but I like to ask everyone because I think ultimately life, you could say, does come down to this in some way or another. Now, that's what does freedom mean to you?
I guess it's ability to follow your dreams and your aspirations.
Love it. I love it. That's a beautiful answer, and I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that, me and myself as well. Esko, we just want to take a moment to thank you. Thank you for keeping going. Because you did said life's not always been easy, but also taking the lessons you've learned, maybe from the big corporate structures, applying them into your life now, and also being open and grounded and realizing that there's a bigger part of the world. Life's more than just your role as a geo-engineer, but thinking about other people's role. And ultimately following your passion and taking that leap of faith, which you did. And as well, we can see from the smile on your face continuing to bring positivity into the world. So thank you so much for coming onto the current and sharing your insights. And we look forward to hear more about all the great work that you guys at TACP do, and even you and yourself. So Agnieszka,
Thank you for having me.
very much. And as they say, do zobaczenia.
Do zobaczenia. Thank you.